Over the past couple of decades, we have seen the rapid rise and development of various technologies which have improved our lives in countless ways. Regardless of what the technology is for, sometimes even making things simpler for us. I'm sure it would not be extremely controversial for me to state that despite the litany of ways it has made our lives better, technology can still kind of suck the life out of us, especially when things break unexpectedly. But of course, breakage doesn't happen when you don't need your devices. It happens when you're actively in the middle of using it. This is no different for us video people out there, and there seems to be a common occurrence happening to users of the Pocket 4K and Pocket 6K. One day you'll be in the middle of a shoot and your HDMI output will stop working. But why does this happen, and what can you do to prevent it? Today's goal is to answer these questions and maybe even a couple more, and to start a general discussion even in the comments with other people who've had similar experiences and maybe what they think the issue is. Let's get into it. So what even is happening here? Is your camera broken? Are the HDMI ports becoming sentient and growing sick of the abuse? While both of these questions have completely separate but equally terrifying implications, I'm sure you will be relieved to know that the answer to both of these is a resounding no. But that being said, there has been a lot of chatter in various forums regarding the HDMI output burning out on the Pocket 4K. The most common result of this for many users is not being able to see anything on your rig's external monitor. The first thing to talk about here is what HDMI burnout actually is, and which is pretty easy to cover since there's literally means that your HDMI out port is burning out. Not much in terms of nuance there. As far as what damage this causes to the camera as a whole, it does not seem that many users have reported full or partial breakage of the camera in general as a result of HDMI burnout. So there is first good news of the day, but I have also seen on Facebook plenty of people who have pretty much bricked their cameras from whatever this issue might be, and we'll keep discussing that. Now, the next thing that is probably important to talk about is how much it costs to fix a burnout. An important thing to note here is that while I was researching how this issue is fixed, I found out that the port that is already in the camera cannot simply be just repaired. Fixing this issue requires the camera to be taken apart in order to swap out the port and any required connections, and sometimes this just is replacing the whole motherboard inside the camera, which can be pricey. Depending on how money flows for you, this could potentially get, again, pricey. Of course, the blow is softened a tad for those of you that have a camera that is still under warranty. At most, the fix could cost a couple $100s and will most likely be repaired by Blackmagic directly. If you've already spent thousands of dollars to build your rig, then it'll probably feel like a small fee. But if you're one of the unfortunate ones that find yourself outside of a warranty, then this is going to cost a lot. And from what I've noticed in the forums, that Blackmagic is not a fan of fixing things that are out of warranty. So this means you will be relying on third-party repair shops. And anyone that's dealt with third-party repair for anything already knows that you will get killed in labor costs. The pricing is going to vary from country to country and shop to shop, and in some cases, it can cost more than the Pocket 4K set you back in the first place. I wish there was a better answer to this as far as pricing and how to fix it, but here we are. Of course, the best place to start is by contacting Blackmagic support and just going through the steps from there. How do you avoid the HDMI port burnout on your Pocket 4K in the first place? There are a bunch of possible explanations that run the gamut, but there are two main theories as to what is causing this, which are what we'll focus on. Using the same power source for both the Pocket 4K and your monitor. Out of the two theories, this is the most popular one and the one that has the most evidence to back it up, in my opinion. This is obviously a bit more problematic for those of you who prefer to use one external battery just for the simplicity of it. And while some people are just fine using the same power source, it just generally is not a good idea. Even if you can figure out how to connect it correctly and ground it properly, it can still mess up. And I've seen a ton of this on Facebook and a ton of this throughout social media with people having these problems. If the voltage levels are not correct or end up getting sent into your HDMI port, then you really run the risk of frying the camera. It creates what some believe to be a grounding loop problem, either frying your camera or frying your screen. Another possibility is low quality HDMI or DTAP cables, aka store brand versus name brand. This connects obviously with the first possibility as well, especially considering if you're already not getting enough voltage into your camera and then adding in a third party or problematic cable into the mix. Obviously, these are not the only possible reasons. Anything beyond these two theories, though, usually involves unrelated anomalies that lead to the burnout or even just misuse by the person shooting with it. Now, how can you either prevent this from happening again to your newly repaired camera or stop it from happening in the first place? When it comes down to it, you really just need to research the accessories that you're purchasing to go with the Pocket 4K, since not all things are alike. First and foremost, avoid using cheap cabling where possible, especially with HDMI cables or DTAP power supply cables. Read the reviews because it is almost guaranteed that whatever you're looking for, someone has already had experience with. An additional piece of advice here is to make sure that the voltage that your device runs and the voltage that the cable can handle match up. As far as the battery power is concerned, you really should be using 2 separate batteries for your camera and the monitor. There are a lot out there that prefer to run a ground loop with one V-mount battery, which is valid to it being less cumbersome, but this is something you don't want to do, and it's really at your own risk if you decide to do this. It's definitely more unwieldy to have 2 separate batteries, but when compared to the potential cost of having your HDMI burn out, it's a sacrifice worth making. I would say the most likely issue, in my opinion, is powering the monitor and the camera at the same time. To be safe, I would just power them separately until a real solution is figured out, as this still feels like an issue that has not really been addressed by Blackmagic as of right now. Feel like I missed something or said something wrong? Please let me know in the comments below so we can correct it. Thanks for watching today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to our channel below and hit the notification bell to keep up to date with all of our latest videos. Until next time, this is John Owens with Frame Voyager.